Hi guys, welcome back to Fries with Potato. Today I'm here with Nithya Menon, which is absolutely crazy to me because first of all, I know Nithya through her films only. I know your portrayals in your films, but when I started watching your interviews for this interview, I was so intimidated, but in the best way possible because I look up to you so much after watching all of that. I was just wow. I want to be her. I don't know if I want to be her or if you're I want to be your friend, but you're so cool to me. And
thank you.
It's low-key so cool how much you've been yourself and done what pleased you the most, you know. And I just wanted to say this little story before we get into it. So I was sitting on this podcast a few podcasts ago with someone, and when they were talking, I realized that they were so themselves that it started making me think that, oh my god, when am I going to be myself, you know? And then when I watched your interviews, it was the same feeling that I got, that oh my god, Nithya is so herself that I want to be like her.
Why would you think you're not yourself? I think you're very, very much yourself.
But sometimes I feel it's toned down because
yeah,
you know,
because you just want to fit in, right?
It happens to all of us, you know.
It does.
You know, it's not something that only I go through. It's
That's
definitely
true.
something that everybody goes
But you
through.
know something? I've realized after these long years of being here that it is not worth it. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
And that's, it's the only thing that'll give you joy.
True. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's a process,
Don't tone it down at all.
Yeah. That's what I like about you, you know. You've never toned it down.
I do tone it down very
Really?
much. Yeah. I have insane energy and actually a lot of joy, and I'll be very, very bright and make a lot of noise and all of that. But I've toned it down in the years.
Really? That is so sad.
A place like this can beat that out of you.
Makes sense. I mean, you are putting yourself to a huge audience, and that would lead a lot of opinions that you don't want to associate in your mind space. Not even you don't have to encourage it even.
Yeah.
You know. So sometimes we just think that it's better to not even step in that kind of a line.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why sometimes we feel we need to suppress ourselves, but we should work on.
we really should. Yeah. Totally be ourselves.
Yeah, that's why we both got the flower today.
I love it.
She looks a bit like Moana. I just look those Malayali.
What? No. You look like this Hawaiian thing as well.
Yeah. Let's just imagine that we're in a Hawaii chilling right
totally.
now.
I would swap for that life in a minute.
I've heard you say that a lot actually in all of your interviews. You're just
stop.
Yeah. But what is it that makes you...
Okay, first I have a question to ask.
Sure.
So what is this Fries with Potato? What does it mean and where did it come from?
I am Potato. My online persona is Potato. So my username is that potato face. Because I at 8th grade, I just decided that this is going to be the cool username that I had. And I stuck with it, you know.
Yeah.
I stuck with it. So when I wanted to name my podcast something, I was just I should keep something with Potato, because I have 2 channels named after Potato. That Potato Face, Tech Potato. Then it makes sense to have something else with Potato, right? So yeah, Fries with Potato.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That mystery is solved.
Yeah, but yeah, what makes you what makes you want to leave the space, you know? You say that, but you also sometimes talk about the gratitude that you have for it, but at the same time you're just illa paravaalla na beach ku poiren illa in the greenery ah irukra edathukku poiren.
The thing is, it came to me this way, that the thing that I was so good at that I didn't know I was good at, but it just came and sort of just fell on to me without me having any interest in that area at all. We all have our affinities, right? We're all interested in certain things. Mine would definitely not have been show business, or that area itself was not my comfort space.
Yeah.
But I seem to be good at acting. More than that, I got those opportunities and those things, it just came to me very, very sort of from that side, just came to me. So it made me feel like this was a divine thing. You know, it was like a gift, and it was sort of, it had a deeper meaning than just us earning a living or something like that. So that's why I have a conflict, because I feel like if it is divine, then should you be putting it away or throwing it aside or something like that, whilst not enjoying very much the process of it.
Yeah, there was this book that I read that spoke along the lines of what you just said.
Really?
Yeah, so it's this book, I forgot her name, but the title of the book is I'm Glad My Mom Died. So it's about this child star who talks about her experience of being like a child actor, and her mom wanted her to be an actor really badly. So to please her mom, she would constantly, put herself in like these positions where she got jobs and made herself more likely to get jobs. And one line in the book that she wrote was, even though I know that I'm good at something, even though it doesn't make me feel good, it just feels good to be good at something. So sometimes that I felt that, where like sometimes it's just you feel good to be good at something,
Absolutely, you do. I mean, the appreciation definitely feels good. But I don't have a doubt that I would not be good at something else. I think I would be good at a lot of, since childhood I was good at a lot of things. Whatever I did it well. So I think acting also is like that if someone's paying me to do it, I'm going to do it really well. That's it. That's the personality. So I think I would be good at other things as well. I don't have a doubt for that, but but through the years, it comes to a point where it's starting to feel not so worth it anymore. Like you get older and you don't have that tolerance level anymore,
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So, I read that you wanted to be a pilot, at one point. And the thing is, it's universal for people to want to travel, especially like wanting to explore beyond like what you know of the world is something that everybody has. And like to become a pilot is like making the most simplest association, I want to travel, so becoming a pilot would make sense. And
I did also want to join the Air Force, actually. So like I even thought about maybe being a fighter pilot and all of that.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the things initially that I wanted to do was very adventure related. It's quite adventurous.
Yeah, even we were literally talking about how like I wanted to join the army at one point. So it was like, I think we just go through these motions.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, like, what made you want to travel the world the most?
So at like 15 or something, I decided, I had to start deciding now what I want to do with my life, The funny thing is, I had so much direction like that. I was not lost. Like, I did sit and think about it. Like, what should I do with my life now? Like, oh my God, I'm done with school. This jail of a school that I, for 10 years. And now I'm free to choose my life and do what I want. So what do I want to do? So when I thought about it, animals, wildlife, traveling, these things like came at the top of the list. So I started to scout for jobs that involved all of these things.
At 15?
Yeah, 15.
Wow.
14, 15.
Very enterprising.
Exactly. I could have been an entrepreneur and I would have done pretty well. I think today I feel like I should have done that.
You still can. There's no such
I
thing.
still can.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no like age timestamp where like you can or cannot do this. So many people have done it.
True.
And you can too. And I'll be excited for it if you start one.
I do think about it actually. So yeah, that's how these ideas came. Oh, pilot, then I can travel, or like, should I be a wildlife cinematographer or something? Can make wildlife films. I always enjoyed seeing wildlife films and the tranquility that was there when I was watching it. It was never there around me, that kind of tranquility. And I wanted to go away into that world, into the forest and everything.
That's kind of sad, like at 15 years old, thinking that like we didn't have that kind of tranquility,
Yeah.
Especially because at that point you're still a child, So Yeah, thinking about it, a lot of us have like disturbed childhoods.
Yeah.
What made you drop that plan? Like, what was
I
it?
didn't drop it. That's what I'm saying. Even today, the point of conflict is that I'm not dropping it, you know? If I dropped it and absolutely embraced what I have, oh my God, like look what I got, I wouldn't have any conflict.
I think I'll be very excited to see if you made a wildlife film.
Yeah. I was actually at the National Award function. We saw so many people. It's not just about this mainstream cinema.
Yeah.
You know, it's documentaries and, you know, wildlife documentaries and so many things. And I thought, I could do this, you know, I should do something like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm very interested and very curious about so many things, so many different subjects. So I could do something like that as well.
You could and you should.
Yeah.
And I'll actually be waiting.
Thank you. You're giving me some encouragement.
No, what do you mean? I'm giving you encouragement. You're Nithya Menon. You can do whatever you want, you know, and it's up to you. And sometimes I do feel that like we do put like some sort of roadblock on ourselves that like idukulla idu panni mudichirno அப்படினு. But like when I was joining, I recently joined law school, and when I was joining law school I thought that I'm too old to be here, and then I realized that I was sitting with like 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who were studying law with me, you know, and that's when I realized that it was such a check for me, that it was like, dude, you're nothing, you know, you got like
so you're studying law right now?
Yeah.
Whilst doing this?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it's very fun.
Law seems heavy.
It is heavy, but I think I like it.
Wow.
That's why I like doing both of them together, I think.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I actually found out that like I was better at doing everything when I was studying something, you know, I was very like, I was very excited to be part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I was sitting with like a 50-year-old who like dropped his like IT job to be like studying alongside me, like a full-time
That's so
education.
nice, isn't it?
You know, yeah, exactly. So it's like
So nice.
there's no point in life where you can be
Yeah.
like, I can or cannot do this. You can do it at any point, you know. So like maybe we will all get to see Nithya Menon do a wildlife film, and I will be seated.
Oh.
Just saying, I will be seated in the theaters if it comes out.
Oh, thank you.
So what was like college life for you? Because I also studied in a women's college. I had a great time, but I want to know how it was for you.
Women's college, as in I was in Mount Carmel
Yeah.
for 2 years, but that was just 2 years. I don't remember much of it, and it went by fast. But I was insistent that it had to be Mount Carmel College.
Really?
Yeah. So they said there was a cutoff of 92% or something in Mount Carmel College without seat quota, whatever.
Yeah, reservation.
So it was 92%. So I got 93%.
Wow.
So just made it over. I said, done. They said, no, you have to get 92 and all if you want to. I said, fine, I'll do it. Because Mount Carmel was the only one where I got an option of not doing maths. Like there was PCBH, physics, chemistry, bio,
Okay.
home science.
Okay.
So technically, given a choice, I would have done arts very happily. But in that time, doing arts means that you're the lowest category of, you know, you're basically, you're not smart enough to do anything, so you would do arts. So that was not an option. Science was imperative. That I had to do science.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, if I have to do science, please excuse me from maths. Because one thing I knew for sure is that I will never use it. Like, I'll never need that kind of math. I'm not going to do anything in that line. So why should I struggle? Why should I spend this time of my life, you know, learning something that I don't really enjoy, when I know I'll never use it in the rest of my life. So Mount Carmel was the only one which was giving that option. So I had to get into that college. Like there was no other option. And also it felt more free and, you know, more like open. I was from a very conservative school, and like I really lived between two lines throughout my childhood. So I was looking forward to just like spreading my wings.
Yeah, it almost feels like liberation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, on Kamal was like that.
Especially like if you do come from like a conservative school, like going to college, especially something that does have a little bit of freedom, that little bit of freedom itself will feel like, wow, like guys, I'm living life.
Now, after that, that's why I chose to go to Manipal as well.
Okay.
I chose to go somewhere which is like away from home, so I get that more of that freedom. You know.
Fair enough. I should have done that.
Yeah.
Kicking myself.
Yeah.
But
First thing I did is look for colleges. And I'm like outside Manipal Institute. Oh, that means I can go away from all of this happily.
fair. I feel like a lot of people still do that, but fair. I wish I did that, but if I did do that, I wouldn't be sitting here with Nitya Menon, so just saying. Yeah. Did you like pick up on like speaking different languages through like your peers, or is it something that you made a conscious effort to for your films?
No, I've always spoken all these languages.
That's so cool that you speak so many languages.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not unusual. So do my parents. you
Oh,
know?
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not an unusual thing when you come from Bangalore.
Mm.
So Bangaloreans, generally, you just go on the street, you want to get an auto, that auto guy will speak 3 languages if you want.
Yeah.
That's how Bangalore is. That's how Bangalore always was. It was always a place with
Mix of cultures.
so different languages. So now my school we had people who are Malayalis, we had Tamilians, Kannadigas, Telugu people, Marathi. That's how I grew up. So every time this thing of like people assuming that I'm from Kerala because I'm Malayali, and not understanding when I say I'm not from Kerala and like creating a big fuss about it and all that, I always feel like, oh, these people have always been in a place where it was one language. This place had just this one language. That's the language you would learn, and that's where what everybody was.
Yeah.
So they don't understand that in a place like Bombay or in Bangalore, it was always multi-language. So our neighbors, our friends, our best friends, their house, you know, all of that will, you know, my dad had this huge group of, they were like Tamil boys. So even now when they get together, they speak Tamil, like very local Tamil all the time. They listen to old Tamil music. You know, he was a huge MGR fan. So, you know, asking me if I know Tamil is like quite heartbreaking.
I don't think, do people ask you if you know Tamil?
Yeah, avungalukku, like, you know, like,
You won a national award for a Tamil film.
yeah, exactly my point. There's a lot of constriction in people's brains. Yeah.
So you were studying in school, and my understanding is that you got scouted by like this travel magazine, like you were on a travel magazine, and that's where they found you, and that's how you got into films. Is that right?
I was actually 8 years old
When you did the
when I did a French English film, and they got a picture of mine which my neighbor who was working in an ad agency had taken from our house and put in an ad agency.
Okay.
It was quite random.
How did it feel getting scouted? Because
I was 8 years old. I didn't know what it was and I didn't care. But I think I don't know if this is a fabricated memory or a real memory, but I remember that I was sitting down on the carpet and the phone rang and my dad went up to the sofa and sat and he was talking on the phone. And there was a lot of confusion. He's like, no, I think you have the wrong number. And, you know, we were from a very different family, a family that was not open to anything close or anything close to films. Like, it's like, what? So they were asking for me to do a film and my dad said, no, I don't think so. That he said no a couple of times until they insisted. And my dad said, she hasn't even done a drama or anything on stage. I don't think she can act. They said, how about you bring her and we'll tell you if she can, you know. And he was like, very hesitant. He's like, what is this? How did this happen? So we finally got to know that it was my neighbor who, he had just come to our house and said, oh, what a lovely picture. Can I have that picture? My mom's like, yeah, okay. And gave, you know, and he took it and put it in an ad agency. So what I'm saying is it can happen in such a, if it's meant to be, it will happen in such mysterious ways.
True. I feel like it found you quite young also.
Yeah.
And then I think the Malayalam film that you did after your 12th grade.
Actually, I did Kannada first. After that I did a Kannada film called 7 o'clock. And I did another Kannada film called Josh. You know, so I did do Kannada first, but as a lead, yeah, I did Malayalam as a lead. And yeah, that one was again a very weird like fluke through a magazine.
It's like the universe is calling to you.
Yes, absolutely. Why do you think I'm so conflicted? I would have like I said, gone in a second if it wasn't so clear, you know, that it was like, sorry, this is your life.
It found you quite young, and I felt like it kept finding you after that as well, which is actually quite beautiful if you think about it. That like whatever is meant for you will eventually come to you. You know, if it's written in God's plan, then it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
And I've been like lately, I've also been like very like hell-bent on like whatever's happening is like God's plan, you know. I keep saying that.
It always is.
But it always is, like, you know, even if we try to make like certain things or certain decisions where we're just like, you know, I need this to happen, it's not going to happen unless it's like written, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because I had all those plans, you know. I had it all figured out, what I was going to study, what I was going to do. Like I said, at 15 I was, you know, making these decisions, but it didn't happen at all.
but it's for the best, because like we get you, but I know that like I know
That's
that
very sweet of you to say.
no, but like, obviously everybody feels like this. Like you would have heard this like a million times, but yeah, for us, it's such a delight to see you on screen. And it's not just like me just saying it to say it. It truly is a delight, you know, like it's delightful. Like it's like so fresh to see you on scene. You know how like Andrew Garfield like talks about his like Emma Stone, like she's like a shot of espresso. That's you. You're like a shot of espresso.
Thank you. I think that's
often.
a very nice compliment I'm going to remember. Someone said I was a shot of espresso.
How has this not been said to you already? Like
You put it really well.
I didn't say that. Andrew Garfield said it first. But like, thank you, Andrew Garfield, for the riz. But yeah, you should come online. You know, you should see how many people make like these beautiful edits for you, and like they've made it to this very audio that I'm talking about. She was like a shot of espresso.
Really?
Yeah. I should have saved it and showed you.
Yeah.
Okay, next time I'll like...
I don't see all these good things. I only see the bad stuff.
I will make it my personal mission to send them all to you now.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Please do.
I will send them. You check them and then you feel good about it.
Maybe
because
I'll
I feel like
stay
it's
a little
good.
longer.
You know, you should like feel the appreciation for your work rather than like the negativity that comes, because it's very easy to like go towards the negative emotions. But like when you start seeing like the number of people who appreciate you, you'll appreciate the people who watch you, you know. And like I'm one of them, so I can tell you very confidently that like you are in fact a shot of espresso.
Thank you. You should send me this.
I will. Like when you're picking projects, right? I would say that in any field, right? Any field, not just movies, not just like content creation, nothing. You know, in every field, every aspect of life, saying no is an art that you have to develop. You know, what you should and shouldn't say yes to. And I feel like you've been very decisive with like your choices in films, and like it comes out, like the kind of roles that you pick. You can
In my career.
yeah, in your career.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is like, how would you approach the art of saying no, and how you have been decisive about your decisions?
Just two different things. When it came to the career, it was very easy. Yes or no was very simple. I don't know how else to put it, but it was very simple. You know clearly, no, I can't do this. This doesn't make sense to me at all. Or this is not my cup of tea. This is not my space at all. These are not the people I want to work with. It's very important, the people as well. Because what I've realized is every film, every day, that's your life. That's life. You're going to spend it with these people. For one film, I'm going to spend like 3 to 6 months with these people. So it's very important who these people are. That's a very important part of my decision making now, who I'm working with. So some people have become now a hard no. It doesn't matter what they bring into my life. It doesn't matter how good films they do. Doesn't matter. That part has become very clear. The shift, it was always that way, but today it's very clear to me that happiness matters more than anything else. So I always put films as a second, life as first, the experience of life as the first thing. Films comes only next, but there's only a career. Career is a part of life. It's not the life. So that was always very easy, yes or no. And things which normally, it wasn't the norm here to say no to certain things. But I said no to those, and that, made people a little bit stunned and shocked. And how can someone say no to this? What? But it was very clear no to me. But I wouldn't say that I'm as clear when it comes to personal life.
We all have a shortcoming.
Yeah, but I'm learning that now, and I'm much better at it now. That's good. Knowing what is.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's something that we all have to learn, because in relationships or even in life in general, saying no is so important. And I've felt that in many instances, because I've seen people get married because they couldn't say no.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that too.
So, it becomes very clear to me at this point where I'm just no, I have to learn how to say no, and I have to put my foot down in certain places.
I think, you'll always realize that you've done a great disservice to yourself and your soul every time you say yes to something that your soul is saying no to, Yeah. It's like a little child inside is, a parent is holding a stick and saying, no, it doesn't matter what you like. I have to please all these people. It started becoming a non-negotiable to me recently, I would say.
Okay.
That no, I'm going to start listening to that little child and say, you know what? She doesn't want to do it. Today, when I do that, I can tell you from experience that it is worth it. It is so worth it. Yeah. So there's a clean feeling inside that you'll have.
Yeah, because you're being honest to yourself that way, and you're being truthful to yourself. So it makes sense.
Something inside you will breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
true. And if you do something that you don't want to do, you'll be kicking yourself the entire time that you're doing it. Why couldn't I just say no at this point?
Yeah.
It would have been so much more easier to say no than to do all of these things. And even when you're saying yes to something, the other person thinks that you are fully in it, but you can't even feel angry at them. You're just angry at yourself, So I feel it is an art that everybody should perfect, because you learn so much from the experience of saying no itself. It takes
from someone who's moved from there to here, it's worth it.
Yeah. So I had done a podcast with Kritika ma'am, and in the title of the video, I had put working with a female director, and someone pointed it out in the comments to me, saying that, it sounds like tokenism when you're saying working with a female director. So I wanted to learn from you. When someone says you're doing a female oriented film, or you're working with a female director, does it come off as tokenism to you?
No, it doesn't.
Does it?
It doesn't. I think a lot of these concepts are, they are very conceptual to people. Mm-hmm. Even feminism and all that. You shouldn't say this. You shouldn't do this. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't say it like this. Mm-hmm. It's not in the saying, it's in the being, For hundreds of years, the world has been a certain way. Yes or no?
Yeah.
It is very recently, I was saying in a previous interview, it was very recently that women in a lot of places got driving rights, voting rights.
Yeah.
So, was it a certain way? It was. Mm-hmm. So, when it shifts, there's bound to be some, of course, resistance, but there's bound to be some curiosity about it. Oh, female direct. Oh, female is doing. They'll never say female actress, because there's been actresses for a long time. But when we are talking about directors and filmmakers, it is unfortunately, the numbers are not equal.
Yeah.
So they're bound to say it, that's all. I always feel that way, even about racism and all. America is the one that's, I think, messing everything up. They have all these stupid ideas and concepts, and and it's not coming from a place of wisdom. It's coming from a foolish place of like intellect, So I think it doesn't work that way. If you're saying someone's black, you can't say black. Why? If you can say white, why can't you say black? So you are yourself saying that black is not okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if I can say white, why can't I say black? Because it's the same to me.
Yeah, true.
It's just a skin color. What is the big deal? So it isn't how you see it. You're just simply mentioning what it is. That's all.
Yeah.
Without anything beyond that. So I always feel like even with feminist things and all that, it shouldn't be so sensitive and so like angry all the time. You just be yourself. That is feminist in a big way.
Yeah, true.
Just be yourself. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And do it quietly. Do your work and achieve something in your life.
Yeah.
That will automatically start changing everything. Instead of saying, don't do this, don't call that, don't say this, don't use this word. That is all simply, conceptual things which will get you nowhere. But speaking about female-oriented stuff and all that, when people come and tell me, like, I have a female-oriented subject, I'll never do it. Because, again, that concept itself is very funny to me. I don't think I can gel with a director who calls it female-oriented film. That's the reason.
But what makes you like not gel with that concept?
No, because a filmmaker with some depth would say, I have a story to tell you. I have this amazing story. You'll be playing the protagonist. This is my story. Again, there are a lot of terms, thriller subject I have, horror subject, like female oriented film. Because you decided that like probably you can't get the heroes to do your first film, so might as well do a female oriented subject, which might be an easy get. You know what I mean? So these are all, it's not authentic, it's not organic. These are all fabricated. So that term gives me the thing that, okay, this is a very, it's a fabricated kind of a thing. I don't think they truly want to just say a story.
That was the wildest take. I would have never expected you to come up with that take. I would have genuinely expected you to like school me a little bit. But I feel like I did get schooled in a different way.
Not you, but I'm saying it's as a general.
Yeah. True. I mean, I'm understanding so much from the perspective of the other side, because we get to hear about these subjects as an audience, like female oriented film, working with a female director. For me, it's like exciting because I know that there will be some justice given to the women in the film. The characters are more fleshed out. They have more. They aren't just like.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah, it's a different perspective, and I know that some women can.
What I'm saying is, at times of transition, allow it. Allow people to call it female director or female whatever. It's okay. Allow it during that transition. Let that transition happen to where it becomes equal. Then nobody will call it that. It's just understand and don't be so oversensitive, but understand that it is a generations and generations of a certain way that is now slowly changing. Wonderful. But allow it. Allow people to say that, because it's coming from a real place and not from a place, like I said, when you say black, it's not coming from a place of racism. It's coming from just saying it is what it is, right? Like that.
Usually, like, I would expect someone to be like, I don't like it when like they call it like female oriented, because it's like oriented to everyone, it doesn't like.
It truly is. But What I'm saying is there's no need to get
Yeah.
so
worked up about it. It's not that deep, you know.
And understand where it's coming from, why it's coming like that.
I will go ponder about this at home. You have talked about this in many instances about how cinema has helped you come closer with spirituality, and like that has been like a journey for you, that you've become close to God. And as someone who doesn't have like that much of a relationship with God, I would say it's actually very nice to hear other people talk about their experiences of getting close with God, you know. I feel like some people naturally have it in them, like it's inculcated from their childhood, being close to God, but it's not always like that for everyone, you know. And in one interview, I think you were just like, you know, if you're God, if you're like that, come like show yourself to me, like come and talk to me, you know. And I was thinking like, I've said that so many times, like in my life, I've said that so many times where I've been like, you know, if God, you're real, just come and show me. No, you know, it's so like simple for us to like want to have like a sign from God, you know.
Yeah.
So what has it been like for you to this journey of spiritualism that you've gone through so far?
I was, my father was an atheist, and I grew up at home without a puja room or anything, you know. So no puja, no God pictures, no, and nothing of that sort, nothing religious. It was very bland or neutral, if you want to call it positive. And I remember from very young age, you know, very like slightly metaphysical things used to always come to my mind. Even as a kid, you know, I used to, you know, be having a shower or something. I see a little water on the floor or something. And I'd be very sad, and I would see that water, and it'd be in the shape of a heart, exactly. And it would make me smile. So I was always a little bit metaphysical always. Maybe it's in my nature. But I was also a single child with 2 working parents who were very busy, you know, with their lives. So I was always alone, and I had a lot of time by myself. So that time also gives you enough space to find. So when we talk spirituality is actually not so much about God, but about yourself. That is actually truly spirituality. To find self-discovery and to see who am I really, what gives me joy, and to actually eventually turn into a joyful person. That is actually spirituality. So through that journey, you'll realize there's something way more than your own ego, and that's God, or whatever we call God. And that's the source of your joy and everything. But, you know, it had to be that way, you know, like I got this Krishna's idol. My aunt brought it over once, and I think my grandmother and all said like, these people, they don't even like pray, or they don't have anything, and how will that child grow up like this and all that. So my aunt brought this Krishna's idol, and she said, you know, if you want anything, you can ask Krishna and you can speak to him. Because I think they realized I didn't have anyone to speak to, you know. So alone in that room, I started speaking to him because I had no one else. So I started speaking to him, and then I would say whatever I want to say to the Krishna's idol. An idol I still have and is very, very close to me, because that's my first experience of Krishna, of God. So, and then, you know, if I felt bad, I would pick up that thing and hug the Krishna's idol and all, because there's nothing else to hug, right? So, okay, the Krishna is going to listen to me. But I remember actually asking at some point that, you know, come, you know, and show me. Because my dad says none of this exists. And I love my dad. My dad is awesome, you know. So, but he says none of this exists. So, I don't know. I'm so confused. Show me that, like, you know, give me some. I think the intensity with which we put it out, always you'll get a reciprocation. Because I did get a reciprocation, and I did see. Wow. Like, I have experienced like energy like that several times and I continue to.
I would like to experience that one day.
Yeah, just I think the intensity with which you ask
Yeah.
matters. Because then you realize the concept of God is nothing like people think it is, like non-believers think it is. Because they're not believing because the idea itself is stupid. The idea they have in their head is pretty stupid. That cannot exist. So they are right. It doesn't exist like they think it exists. It exists in a very different way. You know what I mean? It's an energy actually, that's it. It responds to everything and everyone. You just need to tap into it, that's all.
I'm excited for when I start getting spiritual, because for as long as I remember, I've always been a little bit like, of a agnostic person. So
Agnostic is wonderful because saying I don't know is absolutely fine.
yeah,
And that is how you should be. Saying for sure, something is, that is,
yeah,
being agnostic is much better. But like I said, spiritual is,
Yeah,
don't think it's like about like something, like something other than you. It's actually very much about you.
it's being like one with
Finding-
yourself.
Yeah.
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 And like, I don't know if you do yoga and all, but there was this one time I did this yoga class, and they were telling it was some chakra cleansing or something like that, and I genuinely felt it. Genuinely felt it, and I had like this experience that I hadn't had in my life, and that's when I was just like, okay, maybe there's like something that everybody's talking about that I've been missing out on.
Yeah.
So I've been like very
It does work because energy is very, very real and it works and it's very strong as well. Pranic healing and stuff, people do pranic healing. You can just feel the difference immediately because energy matters.
yeah.
Just in thought, it matters what you think,
Yeah. So for me, when like I had that one experience,
Yeah.
and I always thought it was like this one-off thing that happened to me. It was like, it's just something that happened. It's not serious, is what I thought. And then like lately, I've been like thinking about a lot of it. Like when I said when we started, it was like God's plan. I've been thinking about it a lot, like
That's
how
cool.
everything in my life had to happen for me to be in order to be in this position. So everything that happens, like even if it's a bad thing or a good thing, I'm just like, okay, there's something else that's meant to happen. That's why this thing is not happening. So a little bit, I'm like trying. Let's see where it goes.
No, that's a good, a good thing.
When you're young, I think it's like easy to just like say that there's nothing out there. Everything is just man-made. I was like that at one point, but then you realize that like these energies, aura and all they talk about, right? That all of those things, they have some truth to it. Nobody's talking about it without like having some sort of truth in it. And it's about how you take a certain thing and if you're open enough to receive it. If someone's talking about it and they're a complete non-believer, you won't make them understand anything.
I've heard this once at the ashram, They said, it's like basically, rain. Okay? It's raining. You're holding an umbrella. Like, depending on yourself, with whatever size of umbrella. Be a huge one. And then you're saying, it's not raining. Nothing is falling on me. But it is. It's falling on all of everyone. But you are holding the umbrella. If you just remove the umbrella, it will fall on you also. So, just because you're saying it doesn't fall on me, you're saying, I cannot believe what you're saying. There is nothing called rain because it has never happened to me. At least say, okay, it doesn't happen to me, but maybe that's my experience.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to be open in life.
Yeah.
Like you have to open up your mind to receive certain experiences is what I've understood. If you're like closed off and you say that this is not real or this is not, you have to be like open and like really like put yourself out there and it'll find you,
And you have to be open to be wrong. Like you can't think that I have to be right.
True. 100%
Then
agree.
it'll never happen. Because the spiritual journey will break you down. All of your stuff. You have to be someone who's open to say, oh, I'm an idiot. I was thinking wrong. I don't know everything. all of these things.
I feel like, a lot of people want to be right all the time, but I want to say that like I've been wrong multiple times, and it's okay to be wrong because you learn so much from being wrong itself, The moment we start thinking that I know everything is when everything starts going wrong.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything is when like you can be like, okay,
You're free.
You're free. You're free. You're like, yeah, okay, now tell me.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like glad that like I don't think, sometimes I think of myself as an idiot, and then I'll tell myself it's okay to be like this because that way I'll learn so much and I wouldn't feel so stupid about trying to learn something. At least I'll be like open, like edhum theriyadhu na learn padikiren.
Exactly. Yeah.
That being said, we'll close that because that's a loaded topic and I'll ask you something a little bit lighthearted. Okay, what apart from your films are you looking forward this year?
I'm looking forward to finding my path. Like it's very funny, nobody will believe, but I was saying to a friend just a couple of months ago that I don't know what I want to do with my life, and like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, what should I be? Like, what am I doing? And stuff. And then I said, nobody's going to believe this, isn't it? Because I'm doing quite well in my career. So everyone think you're set. You're already set and you're like doing pretty good. But I'm in that place where I'm like, what should I do in life? Kind of a space. So I'm really looking forward to finding that and embracing it and saying yes to it. And
I can see
the
you becoming a farmer for some reason.
I've always had that dream, but I think I need a bit more than that, I definitely need to do something, because I'm very enterprising. So I can't live a very simple kind of a life, but I would like to find what is that thing that gives me some joy and,
Have you thought of beekeeping? You can make your own honey.
Yeah.
That would be pretty enterprising and you'd be with the nature.
Yeah.
One with the nature.
I'm pretty good with bees actually. I'm happy around bees. Yeah.
I can like sense it. That you would be good with like bugs and stuff.
Yeah. Like bees come and like zzz, and everybody, oh, it's a bee. And I'm like, it's okay, it's just a bee. And I'm like,
it's because Nitya's so
what's
sweet.
happening? And then he'll like go zzz, and then just like fly away,
Yeah, it's because you're so sweet.
I know, I say that to him. Like, I think he thinks I'm a flower. But I'm quite comfortable around bees.
Yeah. What does Nithya Menon do in her free time? I feel like you would do a lot of different things.
You're very wrong.
Really?
Yeah, I do very little in my free time actually.
Okay.
I don't do much at all.
Okay.
I just vegetate. It's really required for me because I expend way too much energy and myself into when I'm working. So when I'm, not, then it's very important to
rest and recharge.
Just, try to recharge.
When do you think we will see a Nithya Menon directorial debut? I asked this off camera, but I'll ask it for you again.
I'm thinking about it.
Act quick.
Yeah.
Maybe this year it can be one of the things that you explore into.
Yeah. I don't want to like prematurely talk about it, but yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. What are your final thoughts about the film that you're doing now, Kadalika Neramillai? Very interesting trailer. I watched it. I got the chance to talk to J.M. Ravi sir and Kritika ma'am. And from talking to Kritika ma'am before the podcast happened, I learned so much about the film. I'm absolutely excited to watch it. So what are your thoughts on it?
To be very honest, I don't take myself or any of this very seriously. It was always like every time I was going through a really difficult time, I know the films that I held on to, that I kept watching, or things like shows or like series or films that I kept watching over and over just because I wanted something light and something happy, or I just wanted to stay in that space, So I always feel like if there is something that I can do being here, having been given this position, then maybe it should be the same thing, that people can watch happy stuff and be peaceful and feel good feelings and be calm and all of that.
Yeah.
So this is one of those films, and very few people do these kind of films, and so when it happens, I felt like I should be a part of it and make sure that it comes out. Maybe like give people a reason to do more films like this. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to watch the film, and all the best for everything that you do, not just your films.
Thank you so much.
Anything else that you do, you just have to know that I am a fan. I'm there for you to support and follow whatever work that you do, even if it's not films. So thank you.
That is so sweet of you. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed speaking to you as well.
Thank you.
And you did give me a lot of positive energy today. Like,
I'm glad.
Yeah, you did say like, you should just do it, and you need to hear it sometimes.
Yeah.
You do need to hear it. So thank you.
I'm glad that I could do something or like make you feel certain things. I'm really happy that you felt that way, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye. Go watch the film in the theaters. Done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.